Well, I did manage to get most of the glue off, and then I realized, I tried not to heat the resin too much, but it did get a little flimsy. Hopefully it'll re-solidify. I'm going to do the same thing to get the glue off of this end, and hopefully it gets harder, and then I'll sand this a little bit flush, maybe get a little part of this straw plastic off by sanding, because I want this to come more to a point before I encase it with another layer of red resin. Same goes for this end. Alright, so I got most of the glue off of this end as well, and it came off a lot easier, and it doesn't seem like the heat made this side of the resin get flimsy at all. It held up its integrity. I think the reasoning why this end got more flimsier and softer is because I probably put more acrylic paint with this resin, so it didn't get fully super hard, whereas this one I think I put less black. And that's one of the tricky things when you're adding acrylic as opposed to like inks into resin. It can cure softly. Next up, I'm going to take this to the belt sander, sand off this highlighter cap, and make this to a point, or a shape rather. I'm not sure if it's going to be a point or just like a nub. And this one for sure is going to be sharpened into a point. Alright, now that I have sanded all the rough spots that I wanted to get rid of on the inner wand gem portions, I'm going to cast it inside this completed mold with some red tinted resin. What I've done here is cut a hole in the back section of this corrugated plastic mold. What I'm going to do is put it through here. Put a lot of hot glue all around there, make sure it's nice and sealed up, and fill this with red resin. It looks like it'll be, pretty good size. And then I'm going to have to hold the wand up at the back end to make sure it sets evenly with a little piece of plastic. Alright, so the hot glue has cured here. It's nice and solid at the base. I even glued in the little piece of plastic you can see here that's holding it up. What I end up having to do, since this resin has too much acrylic in it, it bends when it gets warmer. I put this little string here to hold it up so they won't bend too far before I was ready to cast it with more resin. So after I dye the resin with some alcohol ink, I'm going to pour it into here, but first I'll pull the string out of the way, and then hopefully this shouldn't bend as far down. I don't have to worry about this again because this one cured correctly. I used less acrylic, so I'll note that in the future. Let me mix in the alcohol dyes and cast this. So here is the cured resin. I kind of had a screw up once again. Trying to get out the air bubbles, it got overheated and kind of made more air bubbles. Similar to what happened to my staff. Yeah, not letting the resin cure naturally kind of makes that happen, or if you stir it too fast and whatnot. But I always like to still try and finish a project through and work through my mistakes and see if I can still get the result that I want. And I'm still going to do that. So here you go right here. I peeled it a little bit here to see how it'll be. I noticed that as the resin got super heated, it also made the glue melt a little bit, so it made it stick more to the corrugated plastic, but it should still peel off pretty good. So let's get this out, and then after that I will cast the bottom section. Now the tricky part is I'm going to have to deliberately make it overheat so that it'll match the top red section now. And with that I'll be using a yogurt cup and this lid, hot glue it together, cut a hole, put this bottom section through, hot glue that, seal it, and then I'll put the resin through, and then deliberately overheat it so it'll match the top section. Well, I finally got the resin out of the mold. It was a long process, and I'm sure I made a few mistakes along the way, but it's a learning process, and now I'm going to get ready to sand this down. Instead of shaping this to the final desired point, I decided to cast this end as well with some red resin and then shape them both around the same time. I'm going to be using this old yogurt cup, which I have found that these peel off pretty easily with resin, and it's about the shape I like to start with when I start carving this end out.